Hey, welcome to Coffee with Cory, Grand Forks edition with head coach Jake Schauer from the Grand Forks Central Knights here in mid-June. Well, we got to ask you, how's your summer going, Jake?
You know, it's good. It's fast and furious. Hard to believe it's almost the 4th of July. You know, football never really stops. I'm a teacher too. That does stop. But then it just picks up being a parent. You know, I've got 3 kids. I chase them around all summer, kind of support my wife, make sure that her business is going smoothly, things like that. But summer's been great. We've been able to go on a couple trips, go a couple places, take the Jordy to hockey camp. So I can't really complain about our summer so far.
Yeah, so you're enjoying it. And we'll get to the football stuff and the varsity football stuff in a little bit. Jordy's got her treats. We have our treats. I'm drinking a Dubai chocolate. This is what my sister Meg gave me the other week. I really love it. What are you drinking there, Jake?
I'm really boring. I just got black coffee.
And that's okay. I drank black coffee for years. And but before we get to the varsity football, I got to ask you about the maroon and gray Bombers. What can you tell us about the maroon and gray Bombers?
Yeah, so a couple months ago, he's not even a football dad yet, but one of our boosters kind of approached me and said, hey, we've got a 7-on-7 tournament coming up. How would you feel if I kind of used your colors and promoted your school with these kids? And, you know, his kid will play for us someday and use some of our alumni to coach this team and get them going. I said, well, that's just fine. What do you need me to do? And he's like, nothing. I'm like, okay, yeah, go for it. So it's been really fun to watch these guys practice on Sundays. And just yesterday I wasn't there, but they wrapped up kind of their season in the spring, which football is kind of becoming more of, like I just said, a year-round thing where they're 7-on-7 and there's constantly opportunities for these kids to get exposure. And these are only 5th and 6th graders. You know, I think maybe even some 4th graders.
Yeah.
So
are they tackling each other yet?
No. Just 7-on-7.
So when I was growing up, we got to tackle people on the playground. And I was
yeah, I wish.
all for all. I mean, it was fun. But anyway, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah. But they do play tackle football in the fall. Greater Grand Forks Youth Football is the best. You know, I couldn't do my job without those guys.
It's your feeder program.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that goes for us and the other high school in town, Thompson, Hillsboro, Mayville, all these surrounding communities kind of come together on Saturday afternoons, practice 3 times a week. It's just like anything else. You got to start them young, and if you start them young and kind of build that passion, typically they have a little bit more success when they're at my level.
Yeah, that's so true, and you have the passion of football, of course, but you also have a family passion. Obviously, you spend in the summer with your family. You have a wife of 10 years, right?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Congratulations on that.
Thank
10
you.
years. And how many kids do you have?
We have 3 kids. Jordy, who's with me today, she's 6. She's my oldest, and then Lennon's 4, and Jett is 1. And you know, they kind of feel the brunt of being football coaches' kids sometimes too. I mean, I'm getting her up every morning, and we're in the weight room. So I mean, she's used to sitting in the weight room while the guys lift, and she's getting pulled to, you know, whether it's practice or things like this. So really thankful my kids are flexible, and so is my wife.
Yeah, your wife's got to be supportive. Obviously, me being a head coach for many years, they have to be supportive of that. Otherwise, it's very hard on you and a family. And obviously, she's done that, and it makes it easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, I always say football's a little bit easier. You know the game's going to be on Friday night unless something weird's happening.
True.
She knows my Monday practices are going to be shorter. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are longer, and Thursdays are usually a little shorter. So she kind of knows. She's been doing this for 10 years with me. She knows what my schedule looks like as a head coach, and when I'm busy, when I'm not. And when I'm not in season, I try to pick up the slack with the kids and attempt to cook and clean sometimes. Whether that helps or hurts, I don't know. But, you know, it's just...
Well, I'm sure she appreciates. I don't know her, of course, but it sounds like, I'm sure, you know, you're being helpful, and I'm sure she appreciates that.
Yeah, for sure. It's just like anything else in life. It's all about balance. You know, in the summer, I do have a little bit more flexibility. Now, there are things I still have to do for football and even some school stuff. But at the end of the day, if I can pick up the load in the summer, the fall, when she's a single parent, it helps a little bit more. Yeah,
no doubt. So we also have the connection from Williston. You're a WHS grad of 2009.
Yeah.
So your education in Williston, what would be some highlights from your K through 12 school years? Anything that jumps out at you?
Yeah, you know, really, if you want to dig back, I went to Rickard Elementary School. From there,
Rickard Roadrunners.
Yeah, Rickard Roadrunners. And don't even ask me what the class is. I don't know what year I graduated from Rickard. But then went to our 1 middle school, and then went to the high school. But it was unique being in a school where there's one, or a town where there's one school.
Yeah.
Everyone flows in, essentially, everyone flows into the same high school unless you go to Trinity.
You're right.
But I had a lot of fond memories. I tell, my wife a lot with education. It's not about the building. It's about the teachers that your kids have, whether they're good or bad or whatever.
Yep.
But mainly it's about their class. And I had a really good class when I graduated from Williston. Athletically, academically, and just good people that I could still call on my phone today. And that's where it all started, was Williston. And
those relationships you've kept up,
sure, yeah.
And I can attest to that. I actually was his teacher, freshman physical science and physics, in junior, senior year.
Yep.
And I had a lot of your classmates. You were a good class, and you came from some good parents too. They were teachers. I had your dad as an 8th grader, a science teacher, and a football coach.
Oh yeah.
At 8th grade, I loved football. That was my first love, honestly. But after my 8th grade year, it wasn't because of your dad's fault, but I realized how small I really was. I think we were playing, for some reason, we're playing Fairview, and they brought their JV squad, and there's 15, 16-year-old guy, and I still didn't know my size. I didn't care how big they were. I came and just coming fast as I could to hit this guy, and I just, boom, fell down to the ground, and he kind of looked at me, and he kept on running. I'm like, man. But I realized my mind didn't understand that, I was small. And I figured I better stop playing before I really got hurt, because I love basketball too. Anyway, enough about me.
No. But the game has came so far as understanding body types, looking at length and things like that, and safety. And I just look back and how it all started for me and how it used to be coached compared to now, and it's a completely different game. But
you'd still put Brent Qualley at a certain place, though, right?
Yeah, I think, 7th grade, he was our quarterback, and he's still, killer arm on that guy. But then in 8th grade, we were smart enough, he played tight end, and I think I was the quarterback, and I don't think he dropped a ball. And we were a really good team.
I bet that was a good combination.
But it was a lot of fun. Brent texted me the other day. We had huge storms roll through, and he's like, "What's going on up there? Is this like a hurricane?" And we had a tree fall into our house. I sent him some pictures. So you talk about growing up in Williston. Yeah. Those are the relationships that I still have.
Yeah, no, that's pretty neat. Speaking of growing up in Williston, I'm going back a little bit further than your education started. So I was told to ask you, who babysat you growing up before you got to school? Can you remember?
There's a couple of them. Okay. One gal's name was Jane Ahmet, lived across from Harmon Park. I would walk to Rickard from there.
Okay.
And walk back there after school. It was right by the high school. Mom would pick me up. And then Knutson's down the street.
Okay. So
he was the basketball coach.
Yeah.
When they won state. But are we talking like come to my house if my parents needed a quick babysitter?
I don't probably had many of those, but I was told Myrna Powell.
Oh yes, that's another one. Yep. So, and I think she was maybe even more my sister. Like before I was a thought.
That could be.
But when Williston got a new football coach, my parents brought that up. They're like, well, she was. I don't know if she babysat you, but she definitely babysat Katie.
Okay.
And I was like, okay.
And that's what he asked me to ask you. They had new football coach at the Coyotes, Steve Powell. Said, ask Coach Jake about that, Coach Schauer. I said, I will, no problem. He said, talked about the football too, and I said, well, I'll try.
Williston's just been, it's a great place to be a teacher, and it's a great place to be a coach with how many kids there are there now. But it's just like anything else. You got to get kids out for sports, And when I took over here a couple of years ago, that was one of my biggest things in the interview, was that I really believe football, especially. The more kids I can get out and interested, the more success we're going to have.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Football is really kind of a numbers thing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I mean, you got 11 guys, and if you got 13, that's going to be a hard pull.
Absolutely.
Before we get into that a little bit more, let me ask you this: where do you teach? What do you teach, and where do you teach?
So I'm a physical education teacher, elementary, at Kelly Elementary School. So we're on 32nd Avenue. If you follow that, you're going to hit my school.
Okay.
So.
Well, many don't know this, but I used to deliver peaches here when I was going to college here.
Yes.
Know this town pretty well. It's changed a lot. But anyway, let me ask you this as well. Why did you go into teaching?
That's a pretty easy one. Whenever I get that one, this is a stereotypical answer, but it's because that's all I knew. Yeah. My grandparents were teachers. My parents are teachers. So it's like when it came time to do this, and I knew I wanted to coach. Yeah. And coaching at the college level is not... It's a lot of work to get where you want to be, and it's not really a great it's not a great job when you want to be a dad.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
so,
Well, I agree with that.
when I was offered a job out of high school or out of college, you know, and I had my education degrees in hand, I took it, and it's been great since, you know. And you see a lot of things with teacher retention, teachers leaving education, you know, and it's just one of those things like everything else. Everything is changing so fast that it's really just about getting people who know how to work in their jobs.
Yeah, for sure. And so your little history, maybe walk us through that a little bit, your journey to get to be the head coach at Grand Forks. Where did you start? And I know you're at Thompson for a little bit, but where were you before that?
So it all started in Park River, North Dakota, about an hour north of here, right by Grafton, about 15 miles down the road. And really, I like to think when I started teaching was still a really competitive field, where when you get offered a job, if it's a school you can see yourself living in, you take it. Yeah. So I was a 4th grade teacher in Park River, and I was a football coach and a baseball coach, and I got up there and I got in the weight room and watched the kids work out, and I'm like, okay, I landed somewhere really good. And fast forward 5 years from there, we had won 2 state championships in football.
Oh, wow.
And then 3 in baseball, and I was lucky enough to coach both or those teams. Yeah. But then my wife decided to get out of education, and that brought us to Grand Forks. She's a financial advisor for Edward Jones, and then the job hunt started all over again. You know, we love Park River, but everything happens for a reason. Yep. And then, you know, it's funny the relationships you build coaching and teaching and stuff like that. We were actually coaching against Thompson in the state championship that year, and I had already known that I had accepted a job there. So it was really an awkward situation, you know, knowing I'm going to be coaching some of these kids next year.
Yeah, that would be awkward.
Yeah, but Thompson's only 7 miles out here, so when they offered me a job, instead of, you know, waiting it out to get the perfect job in Grand Forks, I took that. And then, you know, I had always had on my mind that I wanted to coach at the level I played at in high school, that AAA, AA type football level. Yeah. The Central job opened up, and I applied for it and did that whole process. And obviously I wasn't going to just coach. You need to pay the bills somehow, and a teaching job opened up in Grand Forks, so I took it, and that's where I'm at now. Yeah,
then this is you starting your 4th year?
Yep.
And you really took over a program that didn't have really a lot of success in the win column. Is that right?
Yeah, I think yeah.
And so how did you change that culture? How did you get it to more of the wins on the win column?
You know, I think that it's kind of like I talked about 5 minutes ago. The first thing is, okay, how do we get more kids out for football, and how do we turn these kids into kids who love football? Grand Forks is traditionally a hockey town. Still is.
Tough not to be in hockey or to love hockey, but certainly there's other sports, and that your other sport is football.
Yes, and reminding those hockey players, because there are some really dang good athletes, you know, hey, we got a sport in the fall that you'd be really good at, and getting some of those kids out and then some.
That's tough to convince those hockey players to play football.
Yeah, because the amount of time these kids spend on hockey in the summer and the fall and the winter here is it's just nuts. But that's why we're a hockey town. Yep. I mean, usually one of the Grand Forks teams is coming home with state. And but that's kind of where it all started, was getting kids out for football, getting that buy-in, and trying to get kids excited to be a part of Grand Forks Central. Because I didn't just take over a random job. I researched it, and I knew the coach before me had some really good things going, and the coach before that even, they had a lot of things in place that were appealing to me as far as the tradition and, you know, things you can build
a lot of foundational things were there. That's a good part. That's what happens a lot. Sometimes people don't realize there is some good things from the previous coaches.
Absolutely, and you know, you do what you know, and then you build off that. And I took some of his stuff, some of my stuff, and now we're here.
Yeah, and maybe I'm wrong. Did you get Eastern Coach of the Year or something? No. Well, there's my vote. I'll vote for you, but I don't have a vote. But I knew you should have been up for it anyway. But what are some of your favorite things about coaching?
I think the first thing would probably be the relationships that you can build with kids. You know, those kids that, you know. Well, just for example, today I went to the gym today and I talked to 3 of my former athletes. You know, one's working out. One was getting ready for, you know, throwing workout for baseball. Another one's just in the locker room like, gosh, I'm getting old, you know, because these kids are now done with college and things like that. And but just building those relationships and kind of, we talked about Williston High School, paying it forward, you know. I had a really enjoyable high school experience, and I want these kids to do the same. You know, I listened to Eric Schmidt, UND's new head coach, talk, and he says, I want to make these 4 years the best 4 years of your life. And that's kind of something I've been stealing from him. Like I tell my guys, my job is to make your football experience the best it can be. Yeah.
Those are such true words as a coach, because you take the best and you steal from other coaches in the sense of using it. Those are such good things to pour into those kids, and for sure. Let's go back to your high school. Who was your head football coach again in high school?
Todd Matthews.
Todd Matthews, yeah, great guy. Let's talk about this season coming up. What are you looking forward to this season?
It's really interesting to look at it, because we've been building this for 3 years now, going on 4. But this is the first year we really have the numbers that I want. Last year we had a very small senior class of 6, but 2 years ago we had 28 seniors and we made the state championship. So it's kind of like you can see the writing on the wall. When the things are in place, then it's on you as a coach. How do I get those pieces into place? And I think this year we really have some nice pieces that can do some nice things for us.
So you went from 20 seniors to 6. Yeah, that's great. And really, not to put words in your mouth, but that leadership is like a vacuum that leads. Not that those 6 didn't have it, but you had 20 of them.
Exactly, and they were good ones. There's 2 of them at UND now. One of them's at Mayville. Some of them are playing other college sports. They were good ones, really high-end kids. 2 of them were principals' kids, so they knew what they were doing as far as how to act and things like that. And we talk about relationships. Those are still kids that, gosh, they're good ones. But this year we have the numbers again, 9 through 12. And there's always that looming question too with, we're playing AA football. When are we going to get bumped up to play the Fargos and the Bismarcks again? And I think it's coming soon. And when it does, good. It's my job to get these kids ready. It's the kids' job to really step up to that task, and we look forward to whoever's on the schedule. Might as well play, might as well win the game.
No doubt. So you have how many roughly seniors do you think coming back?
This year we have about 20 again.
Nice.
And it's a crew that they were the first freshman class I had here, so they're probably either getting really sick of me or really used to how we operate, And the expectations are there. They know the offense, they know the defense. Things aren't changing. The terminology's still there. The expectations are there, and now it's their time to shine, And it's a lot of kids that played last year, because when you have a small senior class.
And we talked before the camera was going a little bit. You're on a 3-4 defense, and your offense. What do you just kind of mix it up? Or
we like to say that our offense is always ready for what types of kids we have. The first year I took over, we threw it 45 times a game. Now, that's bombs away in high school football, but we had a quarterback who had some good arm talent, some kids who could catch, and we were successful, made the playoffs that year for the first time in a long time. And but the next year, we knew we were going to be a run-heavy team, good tight ends that both are at UND now. They're both 6'4", 250. Those are some big bodies, so if we can run behind them and throw them the ball when the time comes, and we had a really tough-nosed quarterback that could run,
makes a difference.
Yeah.
That's good that you can adapt to what you, and that's what good coaches do, adapt to what you have. And what would be some goals do you have for this squad coming up?
Every year, maybe I'm lazy, maybe I'm old school, but the first goal is to always make the playoffs, right? You want to get into the playoffs because then anything can happen. And I think it's really obtainable with these guys. They just have to keep working. We're doing weights 4 days a week. They're coming to open gym time and things like that, putting in the work. Really, football's at the forefront of their brain right now. We had a team camp last week. We had 50, 60 guys there, 2 days, 90-degree heat. They were getting after it.
That's awesome. So what would you say would be your strengths for this team coming up, do you think?
I think the running back room is really loaded, as far as I've got 4 guys who I can give the ball to, and I trust them, and unfortunately 3 of them are seniors, but so that also gets tricky. How do you balance that out, spreading the love a little bit? But we have a good junior who can ground and pound, and offensive line, most of them are returning, so I'm hopeful that we can run the ball again.
Some good problems to have, Jake.
Yeah.
Coach Schauer, And did you have any quarterbacks that didn't run Omaha?
I'll have to call Peyton and see if he's got another nephew coming up.
I can't say I really know football. I can do a little Madden from Madden 95. But anyway, let's switch to leadership a little bit. You've talked about a couple things. And what would you say 3 to 5 attributes that you like to see in leaders, or that you like to teach to your players?
I think the first thing that I would think about would be being open, right? Like I'm the head coach, but if an assistant coach has an idea, I'm not going to say that's stupid. Turn them down right away. You have to. Your ears always need to be open. You have to always be listening.
That's good.
Be open to new ideas, things like that, and then that kind of piggybacks on to being honest. You know, if I don't like something, I need to speak up and change it. If I do like something, I need to build off it. But then the next thing would probably be being approachable. You know, whether it's to the players, to the parents, to assistant coaches, I need to be able to be someone that they can ask questions to.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And sometimes parents can be crazy a little bit and being approachable. And I think that's maybe one of those things. I thought I've always been approachable, but maybe I haven't. But that's a good thing to try balance. If I'm a head coach, let's say I'm Steve Powell, brand new head coach in I guess AAA, what would you be a good, just one advice, something that you could give him, one factor that you could give him?
You know, with the state of Williston football where they're at right now, get to those middle school games, build those kids up, keep them out for football, retain them, and then the next thing is live in the weight room. You know, this stuff does not happen if you're not putting in the work in the off season. You know, and we're really fortunate here. We have a strength coach who's just phenomenal. UND football player, did a great job, and you know, our kids are able to lift during school. And then the ones that couldn't fit that into their schedule one way or another, they're lifting after school. But that's really where it all starts. Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I've talked to him about it over the years, and I think he's in tune with most of that. And if not, he should be. But no, that's awesome. So what would be, let's go, one thing that most people don't know about Coach Schauer? Oh gosh, I can get serious or I can get funny with this one. If I needed to get serious, I'd probably say that I'm an introvert, like big time. Like when the day is done, it's like, okay, I need to unwind. I'm not a huge talker, which in the position I'm in isn't always a good combination, you know, teaching elementary phy ed and then from there driving to see my 120 high schoolers. But no, that's something a lot of people think I'm always like on, you know, and extroverted, and I'm not. Takes a lot of work, doesn't it? Yeah, for sure. It's like when you get home, it's sometimes hard to be a dad and a husband when you're on all day, talking to people all day. But teaching's not the only profession that you have to do that. There's a lot of jobs like that. I think that's a good point. I mean, you're introvert. You do a good job. You're balanced, and I know obviously we've been, you know, disconnected for quite a while now. But just from outside looking in, you do a nice job with that. My wife's an introvert, but she has to do extrovert stuff. It does take work for those people. I'm more extroverted, but. No, that's good. And one other thing, your grandpa, what about your grandpa that most people don't know that he was connected to North Dakota sports for quite a while? Yeah, he was the executive, I think it was called executive director. He was in charge of North Dakota High Schools Activities Association, probably somewhere between 10 and 15 years. So it's kind of funny if I get like frustrated with how something goes or with whatever. I can just think, gosh, I would have been pissed off at my grandpa for this, you know. And it's like I said, when you asked me, you know, why I went into education, he was a teacher. I have an uncle in town who coaches with us. He was a teacher. My parents, you know, it's just, I feel like if you're from a coaching or a teaching family, you typically tend to go do that. I don't know. Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, well, we wish you all the blessings for you and your family, and obviously we wish you the best of luck this next season and the rest of the summer. Enjoy it. So we appreciate you coming to visit with us in this new Meg-a-Latte. Yeah, it's great. So, well, with that, we're going to sign off here and appreciate you coming. Awesome. Thanks for having me. Okay.